Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here. I've been to Baku many times over the years, but I haven't been to Azerbaijan in 2 years. And so the transformation in Baku remains really fascinating and continues to become even more beautiful city. I think nothing more reflects that than the airport and the new stadium that you built. But Azerbaijan really and Baku remain the jewel of the Caspian. We are here today after 25 years of independence of Azerbaijan, and as many of you know, you can become an independent state, but you don't become really significant in foreign policy unless you have a very good think tank that deals with foreign policy. So it's my great pleasure to very much thank the organizers of the conference at the Strateji Araştırmalar Merkezi. So, and I very much want to thank Gulshan Pashayeva for moderating the panel. I want to thank Farhad Mamedov for inviting me. And most of all, I'm very honored to be on the same platform as Novruz Mammadov and to hear his insights on Azerbaijan. I have only 15 minutes today, and because I'm the only American here at this conference, I think my views and insights may be very interesting to some people. We are 4 weeks away from an election in the United States, and we will have a new president. So I'm sure all of you want to know what their policies and views may be like. And so I will try today to offer that a little bit of a glimpse into what has been happening in American politics and how they may view this part of the world, and especially Azerbaijan. First of all, I'd like to say that strategically, the Caucasus in the past 15 years, 20 years, have been really dominated with U.S. policy by several issues. One of them is the process of the Baku-Ceyhan-Tbilisi pipeline. This was a creation by the Clinton administration, and this is a very important strategic project that is very much was invested by American policy. Unfortunately, under the new administration, the Obama administration, there has been practically what the British used to call in India in the 19th century a period of masterly inactivity, meaning that the United States has really been obsessed with other parts of the world and not really focused on the Caucasus in the way that it should be. But this does not mean that the country of Azerbaijan has done nothing. It itself has become involved in state building. It's also been building a modern army as well as building a modern city. And so Azerbaijan continues to progress, but unfortunately there's been a lot of stagnation in American policy towards the Caucasus and generally towards Azerbaijan in the frozen conflict of Karabakh. So, where do we go from the days forward? Well, the Bush administration, as you know, was very much preoccupied by Iraq and Afghanistan. So, unfortunately, they began their administrations very focused on this region and on Russia, but it quickly changed. Obama followed that pattern very closely, and so when we come with the new administration in the next 4 weeks, we're going to have some new developments. One of the things that we've seen for the past 20 years in U.S. policy towards the Caucasus has been one basic paradigm. And that basic paradigm is that of frozen conflicts, the role of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in negotiating those conflicts, and attempts at conflict resolution. With the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1991, and a weak Russia struggling to recover from the collapse of communism, the OSCE and the discussions of the Minsk process have been the focus of U.S. policy. But we all know Russia's back. We know that Azerbaijan is changing and developing, and we know that in April of this year, Azerbaijan fought a very successful war in Karabakh and regained territory. And then suddenly, the United States, which was asleep, woke up and decided that it needed to renew the process of the Minsk discussions, which led to talks in May in Vienna with Secretary Kerry and the two sides. So things are progressing in a way and changing in the Caucasus that are different in the last 20 years. And again, the things that are changing are frozen conflicts are now becoming bleeding conflicts. We have a bleeding conflict in Donbass, followed by the annexation of Crimea by Russia in February of 2014. And now we have a continuing conflict in Donbass, and now we have the bleeding conflict, which is continuing on both sides in Karabakh. There still remains, people continue to die. In fact, yesterday an Azerbaijani soldier was killed on the line of conflict, on the line of control. But what's happening is that Azerbaijan is not changing in the sense, or Azerbaijan is changing in the area of military reform. Under its new Minister of Defense, Zakir Hasanov, Azerbaijan in the past couple of years has been implementing major new reforms that is building a very new modern army. This is reflecting the changes of the four-day war and the conflict in Karabakh in April, and this has had success on the battlefield, has led to new discussions, as I mentioned before, in negotiations with the Madrid process involving the talks in Karabakh. This also led to the meeting between President Biden and President Aliyev. So on the one hand, began a new administration in the United States, things have changed very dramatically in the Caucasus because of the changes in the situation in the battlefield. And this is going to be a major contrast between what the Clinton administration faced in the 1990s when it was trying to build the Baku-Ceyhan pipeline and the new administration that comes in November or in January of next year. Now, President Clinton is very easy to predict kind of where that will go. As we know, the Clinton administration, Hillary Clinton, will be and is less ideological. So the Clintons are very pragmatic. We can all see that President Obama was very ideological in his approaches towards Azerbaijan. And so these things we think that will be much different in the contrast between, say, a potential Clinton administration and an Obama administration. And we also know that the founding achievement for the Clinton administration in the 90s was the Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline project. So because of this legacy and because of the Clinton family so well known and liked in Baku, I think that this creates a great building process for U.S. policy in the Caucasus if there is a Clinton administration. So this is going to be a key question. But unlike during the period of the 1990s, we now have a very growing confrontation between the United States and Russia over Syria. Now, if there is a confrontation and conflict and tension between the United States and Russia over Syria, I don't know what the process is going to be for Karabakh and for the peace process, and whether this will continue or not, because that paradigm may change. Because how can the United States continue to cooperate with Russia over Karabakh, but yet we're in conflict over Syria or conflict in Donbass? I think it's very clear that the Clinton administration has said that it will provide defensive weapons to Ukraine. We know that that is going to be a part of their policy. So the many parts of the landscape of the borderlands between Russia and the United States and NATO and Europe are going to be very, very tense in this time, in this period ahead of us. So will the paradigms that we have, and will they change? And that's the question that I'm trying to bring up today. Now, many people here are asking about Donald Trump. Well, you know, the elections are very close in the United States, so it remains very unclear what's going to happen. What we do know about Trump, and I can say as someone in Washington that one of the few people that looks positively on Trump in Washington, is that Mr. Trump is a businessman and he's an industrialist. He believes in building canals, roads, casinos, and golf courses. And of course, in Baku, we do have a Trump Tower. So, and we have some reflection of his involvement in the Caucasus. So I think that in many respects, the Trump administration will be even less ideological and more pragmatic, and will focus more on issues like trade. And as we all know, some of the comments Mr. Trump has made about Russia, he also will be very pragmatic towards Russia. But we should always remember that Mr. Trump is a nationalist. And so he is not a globalist, he's a nationalist. So this is a very important distinction to remember, because his use and views of the use of American force and the use of the American military will be much less defined, say, than President Obama. I don't know how to contrast with President Clinton, but President Clinton or Mrs. Clinton does believe in the idea of American exceptionalism. And so I think this is going to be a very big policy change between the two administrations. So I think that Clinton will be, so how does this affect Azerbaijan? Well, this is what we call in the United States a win-win solution for Azerbaijan. And by that I mean that Hillary Clinton winning will be a good thing for Azerbaijan, and I think Trump winning will also be a good thing for Azerbaijan. But they have two different contrasting views on their perspectives of the world, and I think that this will have a very important role in how we look at the situation. But I do think that in the last 15, 20 years, U.S. policy towards the region has very much remained somewhat in a period of stagnation. And what it's demonstrated is that small countries like Azerbaijan can rebuild their armies and can develop a modern, sophisticated military, and will look out and defend its own interests and will not depend on the great powers. But I also want to see on a couple of parting comments that the Armenia's acquisition of the Iskander missiles is going to creating a new dangerous phase in the Caucasus, because unlike a tank or an aircraft, the acquisition of missiles that have a 500-kilometer range is a new dangerous phase in the Caucasus that I very much fear will create a new arms race for missiles. And this is something that any new administration coming in by the United States and for our allies and for NATO is going to be something that they're going to have to understand and try to develop. Because with Armenia's acquisition of the Iskander missiles, Azerbaijan has to defend itself and will have to look for its own means of defense. Now, does that mean whether it'll go to Turkey and try to acquire defensive weaponry for that to counter it, or will it go to Pakistan? We don't know. But the point is that the Caucasus and Azerbaijan is a multi-vector environment. The options and the possibilities for a country like Azerbaijan, with its excellent relations with Israel and its growing relationship with Iran, economic and trades, but it's different relationships that it has, especially with Pakistan, now give it many more options than it used to have. And this is not the country of the 1990s. Azerbaijan is now becoming a modern country with many different options, and it's still remains a very strategic country. And as the earlier speaker said, that there's still a conflict going on in Afghanistan, and the U.S. supplies of equipment will continue to go through Azerbaijan to Afghanistan. So I do not see a decline in Azerbaijan's strategic significance in the region. If anything, Azerbaijan's importance continues to grow. And I think that at the end of the day, whether there's a Trump administration or a Clinton, that Azerbaijan will be in a very win-win solution and will receive much greater attention that has failed to receive in the past 8 years under the Obama administration. And I think that will create some new strategic realities. But we must remember that there's big economic focus going on in the United States. Great debates are going on, and this will affect our policies and positions towards the region. So very much look forward to your questions. I think I finished within 15 minutes. Gulshan is smiling, so I think everyone is happy, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.